So in this video I'm probably going to give my most unpopular opinion of the season, but once I break it down I think you'll see that it's correct. But first I'm going to start with the positives of the game, which was Manchester United's build-up within the first 20 minutes. So here as Mazraoui receives the ball on the left side of the box, you can see that Odegaard moves to apply pressure, while simultaneously arcing his run to cut the passing lane into Bruno Fernandes, calling for Declan Rice to push up onto Bruno Fernandes behind him. Mazraoui's passing lane into Malacia is also cut off via Saka's positioning, but we see the benefit of being composed and patient in this sort of situation, and continuing to play through the pressure, as Mazraoui is able to indirectly work the ball into Bruno Fernandes, utilising a pass back to Andre Onana, from where it's now Mazraoui who Odegaard is cutting the passing lane into, and with Bruno Fernandes shifting his position slightly, Onana is now able to split Havertz and Odegaard with a pass into his feet on the edge of the box. But Arsenal's press is consistent, and so with Declan Rice stepping into that area behind Havertz and Odegaard, he's able to immediately apply pressure to Bruno, stopping him from being able to turn, but Bruno can bounce the ball back into Mazraoui, and now this is when the Moroccan is going to attempt to play a more direct pass into United's forward line, with both Odegaard and Rice having been enticed into the press inside United's box, leaving space behind them in the middle third. Mazraoui's pass goes into Garnacho, who once again, as we saw in the Ipswich game, is making that deeper movement, dropping into the half space area in order to offer a passing lane, whilst also dragging Timber higher up the pitch, opening up the space behind him in the channel. And this is a coordinated pattern of play that we saw Amorim deploy at Sporting Lisbon, and now we see him do it regularly when United are trying to build out under pressure inside their defensive third. But what you'll also notice is that as Garnacho is about to lay off this pass, because Odegaard and Rice have moved to press Mazraoui and Onana, now both players are positioned behind Bruno Fernandes, with Malacia also now looking to make a run off of the back of Saka. What Fernandes does extremely well as he's receiving the ball, which showcases his game intelligence, is that he recognises that Malacia isn't in the position needed for him to play that pass in behind Saka, and so he shows his composure to take a small touch to wait for Malacia's run, before then playing a perfectly timed and weighted pass into United's left-sided channel, releasing Malacia, and now Odegaard, Saka, Rice and Timber have all been taken out of the game. But it also shows that this utter nonsense that Bruno Fernandes can't play in a possession-based side is easily disprovable if you actually watch the full game, as a whole sequence of play was made through Bruno Fernandes' composure in the defensive third, his short passing vision and his forward passing to release Malacia down the line, and by being patient with possession, even under pressure inside of their own box and not just resorting to kicking the ball long as we would constantly do under Ten Hag, United were able to draw the Arsenal players high up the pitch and then use a coordinated pattern of play where Garnacho drops, Mazraoui then finds his feet, allowing Garnacho to lay the ball off, from where with Timber being dragged high with Garnacho's deeper movement, the space is then there in the channel for Malacia to exploit. So before I come on to the things that can be improved in this type of move, if you want to check out any of the new season jerseys, go over to Jersey FIFA. They've also got a variety of different retro club and international shirts as well. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount. I'll leave it linked in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description and comment section below. So now when Malacia has been released, I think in this sort of position, this is where United need a wing back like Theo Hernandez, because Malacia just hasn't got the power in his ball carrying to be able to fully exploit this space, as someone like Theo could. But I also think we see what Manchester United miss without Rashford in the side, as when Højlund makes his underlapping run between Saliba and Kiwior, Mason Mount just doesn't have the pace to be able to make up the ground and burst into the space between Zinchenko and Kiwior. And so when Malacia does release Højlund into this wide position inside of the box, there's no one in that position between the Arsenal left-sided centre-back and left-back for him to find with a low cross across the box, and so he's forced to hold up the ball, turning backwards, and the chance-creating opportunity is lost, and Arsenal are able to get back behind the ball. In this next example, we see United once again being patient with their build-up, starting off with this diamond shape on the edge of the box with the double pivot in front. We then circulate the ball to the right side, wherefrom Arsenal do excellently to cut off the passing lanes ahead. Zinchenko gets out quickly to Dalot, and Havertz tracks the movement of Agate, forcing Dalot backwards, and now the ball ends up back with Onana. But what I really like about Amorim's build-up strategy is, unlike with Ten Hag and Ruud, his build-up system is very fluid, and his side don't simply sit in that initial shape which was that diamond with the double pivot ahead. Instead, we now see Bruno Fernandes dropping alongside Maguire, creating a pentagon shape on the edge of the box and dragging both Partey and Odegaard high up the pitch. After some patient circulation, waiting for the pass and the passing lanes to open ahead, Onana eventually plays the pass out to Mazraoui. We once again see how good Arteta's pressing system is, as Odegaard and Saka's positioning are spot on, cutting the passing lanes into Maguire and Malacia respectively, but Bruno Fernandes' movement deep is key, as he isn't only dragging Partey high, but also slightly wider, which then opens up that passing lane for Mazraoui to split Saka, Odegaard and Partey with a direct pass into the middle third. And now as the pass goes into Højlund, you can see that by being patient and using deeper movements to drag the Arsenal players high, Garnacho's deeper movement in particular drawing Saliba out of the back line, now United are in the perfect setup to take advantage of what is known as an artificial counter-attack, where they are 2v2 with Kiwior and Zinchenko, and on the far side you can see that because Martinelli has been drawn high, looking to press De Ligt in United's defensive third, now Dal on the right wing back has about 10 yards on him, and with Mount dragging Zinchenko in field, there's now a massive amount of space on United's right-sided channel for Dalot to overlap into. However, as was a key theme throughout the first half, Højlund, despite Kiwior not being touched tight to him, is unable to control the ball and bring his teammates into play, and ends up playing an awkward bouncing pass over to Mount, who almost rescues the move, having the awareness of the space on the outside of him, and Dalot's opportunity to run off Martinelli into it, and with the attempt of volleying the bouncing pass over his shoulder, Mount is almost able to release Dalot, but really and truly the layoff from Højlund didn't do him any favours at all. And we can see the issue again here in this next example, but before I come on to that, if you do want to check out the in-game Instagram group chat, as well as some unreleased tactical videos and podcast episodes which I've just uploaded onto my Patreon, you can check that out after the video. I'll leave it linked in all the usual places. So Onana moves the ball out to De Ligt on the right side, and immediately Dalot drops to open a passing lane, and we can see how good Dalot is technically, as when the pass goes up the line, Martinelli is on him straight away, and even though he could bounce a pass back inside to Agate, first time with his weaker left foot, he's able to split the Arsenal midfield line with a curling pass into Højlund. But as the pass is being played, you can see that Mason Mount is moving towards the ball, which drags Zinchenko higher up the pitch, and once a pass goes into Højlund's chest, you can see how United are set up to take advantage of the space in behind, with Garnacho from the left side taking up a position between Timber and Saliba, ready to make that arcing run in behind the high Arsenal back line, looking to be released in behind. Højlund has to get this ball under control, wherefrom he can either turn and play the reverse pass to split Saliba and Kiwior, releasing Garnacho, or lay the ball off of Fernandes or Mount, who can then look to release Garnacho themselves with a through ball, or look to switch the play out to the left, with Malacia having the space to burst into, wide of Timber, who has been dragged narrow with Garnacho's movement. But once again, Højlund fails to get the ball under control, and Partey is able to make the interception before Højlund can lay the ball off to either Mount or Fernandes behind him. And this is the issue I have with people who say we don't need Gyökeres because we have Højlund. If United had Gyökeres up front for this game, almost certainly he's able to link the play a lot more efficiently than Højlund was able to do, which in turn would have allowed Dalot, Garnacho and Malacia to receive possession in behind the back line or down the channels. But people do say that Amorim can develop Højlund into what Gyökeres was at Sporting, but that's not how it works. Gyökeres at Højlund's age wasn't the Gyökeres he is today. Amorim can't just come in and magically transform Højlund into one of the most complete strikers in world football. It might take 2 or 3 seasons, or maybe even longer, before Højlund gets to Gyökeres' level in terms of his interplay with his back to goal in these sorts of areas, and that's not going to happen overnight. And this is why I say that the notion that United should only sign young players is completely flawed, because there's a reason why players in their mid to late 20s are in general better than players in their early 20s. They are just further along in their development path. And so if you don't want to sign ready-made players like Gyökeres and instead want to focus on building a squad full of young players, you have to accept that they are going to have faults and inconsistencies in their game. Signing only young players is great in theory when simply looking at a lineup on Twitter, but potential is not realised ability, and so you have to recognise that there is going to be a gap between a young player's potential and their current ability. For me, if United want to challenge for the title within the next 1 to 2 seasons, which is definitely possible with this squad and particularly with this manager, they need to at least consider signing a ready-made striker like Gyökeres, because Højlund is still so early in his development that expecting his game to be completely well-rounded and at the elite level is just a complete fantasy. If you watch Gyökeres at Sporting, you'll see he's elite, not just in terms of his goal scoring, but also when it came to linking play with his back to goal, controlling these type of direct passes that Højlund was unable to do in this game. And overall, the Swede is phenomenal when it simply comes to keeping possession for his team when he receives these type of passes. And now this isn't to blame Højlund, as given his age, this is expected, and give him 2 or 3 seasons, and I think he improves this part of his game. But to avoid criticism criticising players just because their name isn't Rashford and they're signed to the same agency that Ten Hag was a part of is completely disingenuous, as the issue in this game against Arsenal was clearly Højlund's inability to link the play from these type of positions, as when it came to playing out of pressure in the defensive third and drawing Arsenal high to create space to exploit in the middle third, I thought Amorim's setup and the players' execution in those deeper areas was very impressive. It was just further up the pitch where we were let down. It's all well and good wanting to sign younger players because on paper you can say that the squad has incredible potential and we can dominate the league for the next 10 years, but in reality you need players who are elite now and complete throughout their game in order to compete in these type of games or for the title over the course of a full season. My unpopular opinion is that United would be better off selling Højlund for between 65 to 75 million pounds in the summer and using that money to bring in Gyökeres. Now I know most of the fan base aren't going to want that because they like Højlund and get far too attached to individual players, ignoring an obvious upgrade that would be available and would give us a better chance of winning the title.